As you may have seen, Jagex are releasing a very controversial update in October, and whilst everyone complains about it, you know me, all I can think about is the insane money makers that this is going to produce. These will be up there with some of the best money makers ever in Oldskool Runescape, and there's enough of them for everyone, plus some are even free to play. The update is Fresh Start Worlds, available in pay to play or free to play, where everyone starts as a level 3 and the game is essentially reset on certain worlds. I'll give my opinion on them later, but what it means is that it will be incredibly difficult to get certain items initially, as there will be none on the GE. And if you ever played Deadman mode, you will know exactly what happens when this is the case. It's a massive rush to level up, to be the first to get to certain content, items, gear or unlocks, but because there are hardly any items or GP in the game yet, to get around this, people massively overpay with their accounts on the main game to get the items that they need in this new game mode. New clans are even set up to exchange money that you make in this mode for up to 100 times more in the main game. It starts at 100x and then goes down every day that passes. For example, GP is so hard to come by just by going to the strongholds of security and getting your 10k cash at the start of Deadman mode. For the first hour, people will pay you 500k to 1 million in the main game. In Deadman mode last tournament, I made 700 million in 5 days, 2.5 million in a completely different video in just 5 minutes by recharging one inventory of Ring of Wealths, and showed many other methods over 10 million GP per hour. I will link all of those videos below so you can get a good idea of how this mode is going to work, the only exception being is you can't PK apart from in the wilderness in this game mode. So I've put together around 100 different ways to make money in this game mode. In reality, there are tens of thousands, but before I get onto that, how popular this game mode is going to be will be very important and should impact the money maker you choose and the strategy that you take. I remember a Deadman mode tournament where there was either no money or very little money compared to what was normal, which did affect the prices that things went for, especially towards the end. And in that game mode you also have the prestige of being the best or one of the best PKers out there, as well as advertising your clan in the process too. In this game mode though, there isn't any of that, but they've just announced the same update for RS3 in September, and the players who get the first 99s, 120s, Quest Cape and Max Cape will be named at the end of the tournament. Plus there will be an exclusive reward of a gold halo that can be brought into the main game for everyone that finishes in the top 100 in each skill. So they may or may not do something similar for Oldskool Runescape, but given the negative feedback that's been around for the last few days, I think they will add some kind of reward to make it more appealing to players. Keep an eye on this though, because if the rewards suck, chances are you want to choose a moneymaker that is good in the first week, since interest will die off quickly and demand with it. But if the rewards are good, the opposite happens, people will play much longer, and you may choose a moneymaker that is harder to unlock, such as 85 Slayer, because you know further down the line lots of people are still going to be buying whips. The first batch of moneymakers are the ones that you can do almost immediately upon logging into the game. They're very quick and simple to do, and they just make a lot of cash. First off is the agility pyramid, which simply requires 30 agility, although you do fail a lot until around level 50 agility. This can be done in just under an hour or two of training, so the conversion rate will still be very high at around 75 to 1. Every lap you do gets you 10,000 GP, which will convert into 750,000. And at the level you will be, you should be doing around 20 laps per hour, making a nice 15 million GP per hour method in the first couple of hours of this mode. Next is ecumenical keys, which require 60 strength or agility, plus god items to make the creatures in the dungeon non-aggressive. Each key you get in the Wilderness God Wars dungeon asks for 60,000 GP, which at the end of day 1 is 2.4 million GP every single key, and you can get around 10 per hour. We also have thieving, which earns you GP immediately, so instead of getting 50 GP from a night for example, you will instead be getting around 2,500 GP each pickpocket. Steel plate bodies in the Wilderness high alch for 1,200 GP, or even low alch for 800 if you don't have the level. At an exchange rate of 50 to 1, that's 60,000 GP each, and you can get around 600 per hour. So that is a 36 million GP per hour method, minus the cost of the runes, by simply hopping worlds and high alching them. Steel plate legs are exactly the same if there are too many people doing plate bodies, but they are half the price. Fletching is not normally something I would ever suggest in a moneymaker, but if you intend to do this just for a day or two, cutting and fletching logs and then selling them to a general store whilst the conversion rate is still really high will probably be a very good AFK moneymaker in that period. Mining and smithing is slightly better money than fletching, but does take longer to level. Ham chests are a mix of pure money and items that requires a few quests with low stat requirements to do first. However, the jewellery you get is very sought after at the start of any new mode, as it enables all of the players with low agility, which is pretty much everyone, to teleport around the map, so they are usually high priced even though there is very little GP in the game. Other good moneymakers are specific items that will be very sought after. Unlike Deadman mode where everything is about the best weapon and armour, in a game based purely on levelling up, the most useful items in combat or skilling will command the best prices. Rune and Dragon Axes are a bit of a pain to get, but anyone who wants to try to be the first 99 woodcutting is going to need one. It takes almost a week to get 99 woodcutting, so training Mage on Tree Spirits will level you up and give you Rune Axes as a drop to sell for more runes. That will give you the main stats needed to kill Dagonoth Rex for both the Dragon Axe, Berserker Ring, Warrior Ring, some Talisman, Dagonoth Bones, Alkables, and Ores. You also get the axe in the fastest way possible before anyone can max woodcutting, and therefore they will still be willing to pay a high price for the item. Frog leather boots seems like a silly item to be on a list such as this, but this type of item is the one that can actually make you bank in this mode if you're smart about it. Ranging boots are notoriously a pain to get. Snakehide requires hacking at a jungle for hours or a long quest chain with many stats, and god items won't be in the game for a while at the start of this mode. But you can do a few little quests with low requirements, and if you are the first to do it, you can buy frog leather boots from a shop, which on the first day or two will probably be the best in slot items, and simply resell them on the GE for 5 or 10 times the price you paid for some very, very easy money. The Dragon Pickaxe is very similar to the Dragon Axe, but most of these bosses can be safe spotted and people expect to pay a high price for a Dragon Pick. Rune Crossbow is another underrated, difficult to obtain item that you can get at a fairly low level by killing the Crazy Ark. Rune Simmies are also another massive item for combat, and you can get them from Zami warriors at a low level by maging them. Balls of wool are a trivial, low price item that no one cares about when there's hundreds of thousands in the game. But when there are none and every single amulet still needs stringing, but people don't have access to the best shops from the start, you can go to RD General Store, which has a stock of 30. That's probably the best general item, but all of the following will make you a lot of money simply by buying them from a shop and putting them on the GE. Rope again in the RD General Store, bronze bars at the Shanty Pass, hammers, knives, feathers, vials of water, farming tools, compost, bait, spades, candles, Eye of Newts, and all quest items. You can also buy sand and soda ash from charter ships, as well as hunter supplies from hunter shops. All of which people will probably try to buy from the GE first, rather than trek halfway across the map with just one agility. And there are also some items that you can just simply pick up, such as Monk's Robes, which is considered a Sarah item and has some of the best prayer bonus in the game. Monks of Zamorak also drop Zami Robes, which could fetch a good price from a low level creature, and Dragon Bones as always are a very simple way to make a lot of money in this game mode, as well as Dragon Hide. Next we have some terrible XP items. These are items that you can create which are terrible XP for you, but creates a very useful item. Meaning for the very first week, lots of people want this item, but no one wants to make it, and therefore they always go for a lot of money. The obvious first example is cannonballs, slow XP, but very useful. On that list is also a lot of smithing items such as arrowheads, dart tips, bolts, and wire. You can also make headless arrows which allow people to make arrows for some very fast fletching XP, which they should pay a good price for. Plus there are also the usual money makers which during this game mode are far more profitable just because of the exchange rate. These include tanning hides, making planks, buying nails from the sawmill to resell for a profit, grabbing wines of Zamorak, more Mire fungus, and making teleport tablets or clockworks. In the first 3 or 4 days the exchange rate will be a minimum of 10x, which means for every million you make in this game mode it's worth at least 10 million in the main game. Almost every method listed so far is over 1 mil per hour, meaning you make a minimum of 10 million GP per hour for at least the first few days until the rate drops, which is a lot better than any current method apart from Nex. Well, finally, there are some very high risk, very high reward methods that could make you billions or waste weeks of your time. This is because it takes you a long time to reach the levels needed, but once there, you can do some of the best money makers in the game. The only issue is, what will the exchange rate be at this point, and I honestly have no idea. If the game mode is a success, it may still be 5 to 10x, but if it's a failure, it may be even. People may also pay more in this game mode for items, or less depending on how popular it is. If the exchange rate was 10 times and the prices were the same, Nex would be 109 million GP per hour, for example, but at an even exchange rate it would be exactly the same as the main game, but you would probably have worse gear and stats to get the kills with. So that choice is yours, but here are some of the best money makers in the entire game mode if the rates stay high. The Gauntlet in the main game is 5.3 million GP per hour, Nightmare is 5 million per hour, Theatre of Blood 4.6 million, Alchemical Hydra 4 million per hour, Vorka 3.6 million, and so on. And finally, there are a few milestones that if you get to first will make you absolute bank. But players going for these generally use alts and friends to boost them, as well as buying items using their money from the main game. If you don't do the same and use multiple accounts, it's very unlikely you will be the first. Whoever unlocks the most useful potions like super attack, strength, range, prayer, and so on, can almost pick what price they want to sell it for. The same goes for most jewelry and dragonhide armor in crafting. The first to 85 mining and rune smithing will unlock an absolute gold mine, but that will obviously take a while. 85 Slayer for a whip will always be an item in huge demand in these game modes in which people pay way too much for. Unlocking Thriftiness opens up a lot of money makers, but generally with other skills, such as high combat for the Gauntlet or making divine potions, and obviously just to get there requires 70 in a lot of stats. 80 fletching just to make magic short bows would be massive. Catching chins will be a good money maker because anyone going for the first 99 in range will definitely want them. And if you can start runecrafting natures, laws, deaths or bloods whilst the exchange rate is high, that will be like printing money. And finally, rev caves are very, very high risk and very high reward. And there are obviously thousands of money makers, they just pay a lot more in this mode. That's the ones I can think of quickly, but you may know of an item that many won't think of that will be in high demand. That type of item people will not just pay more for than the main game, but then you're getting an exchange rate on top of the extra money that you're making for an in-demand item in that game mode, and that is where the really, really big money can be made. And as for the update itself, in its current state, I personally don't think it will be very popular, but that opinion is being voiced by many players, so the rewards may change. In RS3 there are top scores in this game mode, and that needs to be the minimum in Oldskool Runescape. Even then, that probably won't be enough for most players to start a brand new account to play. If they add in a visual reward that can be taken into the main game, like RS3 are doing, that would make a big difference, but people don't like cosmetic items in Oldskool Runescape. So I would suggest a new colour trim on each skill cape, and if you finish in the top 100 to get 99 first, then you get to keep that item. It's a small update, it can be shown off as an achievement, and you can reset it every year for the game mode to be reset again, which gives another achievement without adding loads more things into the game. I would like even more than that, to be perfectly honest, but I'm realistic with what is possible. We love this game mode because it's fair, and outside of selling bonds and an ongoing bot problem, no one has an advantage over anyone else. The time alone and your ability in the main game dictates what you achieve, nothing more. We don't want to buy cosmetics, extra XP, lucky spins for rewards, pets, celebration packs, special monthly items and so on, but there needs to be a realism of what that causes too. The best example I can give is it would be like the fans of a Premier League football team saying, we don't want to pay more than £10 a ticket, travel to away matches should be free, only release a new kit every 3 years, and children should get into the ground for free as well. And then wondering later why you aren't competitive in the transfer market and you get relegated. It's a minor miracle Oldskool Runescape is still around and absolutely testament to anyone that has ever worked on this game. Their hands are tied with what investment they can do, yet it is RS3 that is now copying the game modes from Oldskool Runescape. Just think about that for a minute. In its current format, it's an absolute certainty that Oldskool Runescape can't last forever, and we will all look back and think, what a shame, used to love that game, wish I could still play it. I know this will be an unpopular opinion, I get it, but whilst I will only play this game mode to make money, if others want to buy bonds just to play it, great, fantastic, more money coming into the game. And if they release cosmetic items for money and people want to walk around as a headless player in a long cape that has zero effect on XP rates whatsoever, I'm all for it. Let those people who enjoy that have fun and at the same time pump money into the game that Jagex can use for more updates. Will they? I honestly don't know. They may take all of it out as a profit, just use some of it, or pump it all back into the game. There's probably only a few people in the world that know the answer to that. All I know is the small team use the little money that they get very wisely, and if they get more, they're likely to do the same, which may keep this game alive for decades. And if the owners take the money in dividends, what have we really lost anyway? There's a few more people playing the game and a few people dressing up a bit weird, but how is that any different to any other year?